All right. Thanks, everyone. Can everyone hear me first off?
Yes, we
Just
are
a
able to
check.
hear and we can see the screen.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us. My name is Cam Murray, and with me I have Daniel Moses, and on the chat we have Daria Agarwal. We are product managers with the Defender for Office product group, and we have a presentation for you today on how to harness the power of Microsoft Defender when triaging and responding to user-reported phish. So without delay, let's get started. So first of all, I'm going to talk about why is this important? What's the message that we're delivering here? So first off is phish is a numbers game, right? So from an attacker's perspective, you can have greater success if you send thousands of messages in. Even at very high catch rates, there are going to be some instances of phish messages that are going to get through to end users, right? So holistic security strategy is going to include training or end user awareness training for our users to how to identify phish. And when we get our users to the point where they are able to identify phish well, then those end users have become pretty good signals from a security perspective, right? And from a platform, we're going to need to make this signal as clear and as strong as possible. So multiple people might be reporting the similar messages. Remember how I talked about before it being a numbers game? So an attacker might send in thousands of messages, maybe a handful get through, and you might have similar people that might be reporting the same message, right? So in terms of signal, we need to dedupe that signal if people are reporting the same messages over and over again. There also might be related events, especially when it comes to phishing. An attacker's goal is to obviously compromise the organization. So we might have signal that is available in the platform for us that tells us that something else is actually going on in the environment that's somewhat related to this phishing attack. So potentially a user clicked on a campaign, right? And we want to bring that in to make that signal as clear as possible for you to be able to triage these signals effectively. Verdicts can change as well. So when a message comes into the environment, we might think that that message is clean, but something later down the track changes that verdict. So maybe the payload behind the website that was contained in that phishing site changes, right? So before it was benign and now it becomes bad, right? So we need to continuously be evaluating the verdict on those sites and those emails as well. So automation is really key, a key component to making sure that signal is as clear and as strong as possible for us to do triage events on. We also need to leverage this signal without increasing your workload, right? Remember, numbers game, we might have thousands of messages through, 5 or 10 get into an environment. We don't want you triaging 5 or 10 messages, right? Especially if it's got to do with the exact same thing, right? So we want to make sure that we package this up, we provide as much signal as possible, and again, that keyword, automation is a key component to making sure that your workload is not increased. The response should be fast, right? Especially if there's something untoward going on in the environment. If one user reports a message, right, and we are aware that that message has changed verdict, or we now believe that that email is bad, or a website that's on that email is bad, we might be able to remove those messages, right, automatically. So again, automation is a key component to that message. Another thing that we're going to be talking about in this presentation is that you can benefit from the signals that we're talking about, even if you're using third-party buttons. So you might be a KnowBe4 customer, or a Cofence customer, or a Proofpoint customer, and you might have their button deployed, right? You can still leverage what we're going to be talking about in this presentation if you do the integration components for that button. So let's talk a little bit about, first off, automation. So that's a word that we're going to be hammering on a little bit throughout this presentation. And Daniel's got a demo coming up but we're going to run through all this, and Daniel will be showing some of those automation components that are inbuilt into the product. So let's talk about the report Phish option. So that signal, that first signal that something's going off in the environment, or a message has got through into that environment. So we support effectively two report Phish mechanisms. So the first one is our out of the box native report action, and that's available to you today by the Outlook client, via OWA, via Outlook mobile clients as well. We also have some deployable add-ins that you can add, and you might already be using these today, report phishing and report message button. And we, again, as I was talking about before, we also support third parties, because we know there's a lot of value that you can achieve or obtain off this signal. We want to make sure that if you're using a button like the know before button or the co-fence or the proof point button, right, that you can take that signal and bring it into Defender XDR to leverage some of these automation components that we're going to run through with inside this presentation. The third-party options does require a little bit of configuration from the third-party perspective, but also with inside the platform. I'm going to quickly show you that those settings with inside the page. So before I get to that, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use the native report action to actually identify a Phish message with inside the environment as if I was a user. So I'm just going to switch over now to my user here. And we have, what's this person's name? Chat. Christy here. Christy is a user. She's looking through her mailbox here, and she's looking, and she's got some very suspicious messages here. And this one here, this one's really suspicious because it says down the bottom there, only scan the QR below to get 123% discount. Now I know no one's going to pay me to scan that QR code. So that's definitely something that's really suspicious. So based on all my end user training that I've been told by my SecOps members to come up here and click on this report button up the top here. So that's what I'm going to do. And this is our inbuilt native button that we have with inside the platform. Again, as I was mentioned before, you may have a different button, which we do support you integrating, but this is one you get out of the box without any additional configuration. So I'm going to just click that button, click report, and that's gone away. And Dan's going to show you in a second some of the automation that's kicked off automatically. But before we get there, I'm just going to come back to my presentation here. And we'll go through a little bit of the configuration before we go into what has occurred after that button has been clicked. So in terms of the report Phish options configuration, if you are wanting to leverage the default or the built-in button, right, there's no additional configuration that you'd need to do that, right? That's supported out of the box. The settings are set up so that the signal goes into XDR, and all should work. The only time that you would need to potentially make changes here is if you are wanting to leverage a third-party button. Remember how I was talking about before that we support the built-in options, but we also support taking the signal from a third-party provider as well, a third-party button provider. In order to do that, we need to come into our submissions policy. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to switch screens here to my admin account this time. And I'm actually under the settings and email collaboration page in the user reported settings tab. And in here, we've got a bunch of different options. And this is mainly the default setting that we see here on screen. You can see that, we're monitoring the reported messages in Outlook, and we're using the built-in report button that's in Outlook. If I was a know before customer, or a proof point customer, or another third-party vendor that creates a button that enables users to report, or maybe you've got one in-house as well, one that you've created yourself, we support this non-Microsoft add-in in the drop-in here, and you can select that, right? And all you need to do is down the bottom here, you need to make sure that you have a mailbox configured where that button will send the reports to. Now, those reports need to be in a specific format, which we've got very well documented, and we might shove the documentation into the chat for you at some stage so you can have a little bit of a read if you are interested. But that's basically all you need to do if you are using a third-party button. But as mentioned, by default, we're set up, ready to go with the inbuilt options. Now I'm just going to cancel this here. I'm not going to change the settings in my tenant, but that's just a quick run through of how to configure this, especially if you're using a third-party button. I'm just going to come back to my screen here. And we are going to go, I think, into the demo. So for here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to my very capable colleague, Daniel Moses, and he's going to run through some of those automation components that we're talking about in the light of that message that I just reported. Over to you, Dan.
Thanks, Cam. So let's have a look shortly in the product, like what happens after you report a Phish. And yeah, we as Cam mentioned, we dropped you how to set up with third-party add-ins or reporting solution the system. We dropped the documentation in the chat. You can get details like what's need to be done. But before we go to the demo, I wanted to just talk you through like what we are set up to show you today. So this is usually a typical Phish campaign. Attackers start sending emails over a longer period of time. In this case, we started this beginning of the week. We start sending various emails, different sender, different subject, different mail body, different recipients I'm trying to get to in the environment. We're using something which is a common technique of we not weaponize the URL in these messages. The URL, however, is the same. Some of them in the mail body, some of them in other ways. What we are trying to capitalize on the attack is we're trying to get as much as messages go through the filtering system through the front door first, and then we will weaponize the URL. Then know the URL will present malicious payload like mimicking a logon page, dropping malware, asking for sensitive information, hoping that after some of our messages delivered and the users click on it, they can get exposed to this malicious content and we can capture the credentials or access tokens or things like that. However, in this attack, nobody will in the organization click on any of the URLs of these messages or visit the payload because the organization has a strong user awareness and education program. So as Cam showed, one of the users reports a message. So what happens usually here from a concept point of view, every reported message, doesn't matter with our solution or third party, if it's configured correctly, automatically trigger automation in the system. So alert is firing, automatic investigation playbooks are running every single time a user report a Phish. And if this automation get new malicious verdict, previously not present or convicted in the message, then automatic actions will happen as well. The system will start cleaning up emails with a process called zero or auto purge. However, you still need a defender and SOC analyst because there can be still things to do. Okay, more emails, similar emails to clean up. Maybe like not everything was automatically actionable. Maybe you want to take other proactive actions, and we will talk you through some of these as we go through. So let me share my screen and let's see how we are in the system. Can quick check, like, do you see the different portal? Are you on mute, mate?
I see.
You should come up. You should come off mute because I will ask questions from as I'm going along. First of all, what I will do, I will start from the home screen as a SOC analyst. We envision to start. We're going to a place in the different report called incidents, and there's a specific reason for this. Why are we going through incidents and not going through other experiences? I think Cam, you usually tell this. This is because we want to see the tree from the forest or something like this.
Forest
I think
from the trees.
Can you explain all that?
Right.
Why would you start here and not in an alert queue? What's the benefit? What do you think?
Well,
Can you explain?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at one report message, right? Well, first off, you might have multiple people reporting the same message, right? So if you're looking at the alert queue, you're going to see multiple alerts for the same thing. And another example as well, right? What happens if there's someone that has clicked on one of those links? Now, that's no longer an initial access attack here, right? We've got a compromise. So we immediately can start to prioritize based on the ones where there is an active attack going versus ones where the attacker is effectively being unsuccessful because their phish has been detected. So.
Yeah, exactly. So you can benefit from automation right at this spot. Correct? The system does correlation, does automatic actions in the backend. It can take some time to run, but the results you will see here. So you can come here and triage from here. There's management capabilities in this queue, and of course you can take out with an API to your SIEM or source solution if you need to be. The first thing what you would do as an analyst, of course, you want to start working on it. So what I will do here, I just take it on my name. Say it's in progress. I don't know the classification yet, but looks like this is a user reported a phish or something like that's going on. So we'll have a look on it. But I take a comment to my team like, okay, start looking to this. Okay, this should be like standard kind of queue management things you can do directly in the portal if you want. We'll do this just to make sure like we're not cross work with other team members, and then start investigating. So you start looking at this. I'm using an older one incident because the one which can the system is still churning through data. But this is what you will see in an attack like this, the kill chain we showed you. User reported a phish, correct? You will see it in the attack story, like there is some entities related to that, but then the system kicking shortly after, there is automations already happening, looks like. There's email messages removed after delivery by the system. One thing I see teams are doing as a first step, they want to get a closer look like what's going on here. Okay, it's like there is multiple entities involved, but how they are related. What's the story here? An incident is a great tool to visualize this. Okay, like I see, like for example, this first step in this incident I'm investigating, there was some email reported by a user. Okay, this is a message, and looks like there is other messages related to this impacting other user mailboxes. But there is a common theme between them. This is the URL. Okay, this is a malicious URL which glue them together. So let's have a look. Like the user reported an email. Maybe I want to have like a visual. I want to see like what is this message? What's the details? And here comes Defender for Office integrations that directly at your fingertip. You can look at message details just clicking on the entity itself, and then you can decide like for which recipient I want to view the message. Like we can select any of them because, for example, in this case, this email went to 5 users and only 1 reported it. And straight away, you see some summary information here. This is already metadata of the email. The user reported it. You can get a little bit of ID what happened here. It was delivered to inbox. Then it's get quarantined. Looks like because of the URL. But in this case, I want to go a bit deeper. So let's see what else I can know about the message. So if I pivot out, there's an experience in Defender for Office called email entity page. And this is integrated to incidents you will see, or outbound something you will see there too. This is an experience where you see everything about the email, which is the system knows, and even more. So here we show you all the metadata of the message. How is it went through a filtering stack? What was the verdict? What did happen after that in the context of this message? Is there any IOCs there? What's their verdict? Is that change? And you can take actions, of course. So in this case, we see that it was originally designated as a spam, but then later the traffic gets updated. And this is if you see, look at the timeline, is because of the user action. This is why it's important user signals. Because what's happening here, the email original get delivered on this day, and half an hour later, one user reported this message as phish. And because the attacker changed the verdict of the URL in this time period, at the beginning, the system had no verdict on the URL. But because user reported phish go through automation, and one part of that automation to rescan IOCs, detonate them again, no, the system will see and have evidence this URL is malicious. And then it goes back in minutes and automatically start taking actions. Okay, like you see in this case on this message, it start, we call it ZAP, zero or auto purge, start moving the message out from user mailboxes to currently. And this is not just true for a single message. It will go because the entity changed verdict and look for automatically every message with this entity and start removing them and moving to an unaccessible user. Use an unaccessible currently. Okay, so this is what happened. But let's have a look, because maybe the system has a mistake and you want to have a visual. There's capabilities here. You can still like preview the message. And from the page, you will just see a visual like, okay, what was this message? Why my user think it's a Phish? Okay, you can also go and grab an example of the message if you need it. In this case, this was like a Dropbox team, look like message coming from not really matching email sender, a little bit of sneaky text. There's a code to scan to get to somewhere. Definitely not something likely legitimate in the context of this topic. So you will do your investigation based on the data, and if you agree, then the next step, usually what an analyst does, is, okay, no, I made up my mind. I agree this is a Phish. My user reported it. I know the system did some actions. I see the system did some automatic investigations, but I see some of the investigation can come back with some pending actions. So the next step where you would go is to, okay, I want to see evidences and know a little bit more about, do I have anything else to do? And this is where the Defender for Office automation ad investigation comes in. I have a bit of background noise. Okay, there we go. So this is where Defender for Office automatic investigation comes in. We have these playbooks designed to run a series of steps like a SOC analyst would do. So you not start your investigation and response from scratch. So at the moment Cam reported that Phish, there is an alert firing, there's this playbook starting, and it has a predefined number of around 20 steps to go and do things like a SOC analyst would do. Why? So you don't need to do it. So you start from somewhere. It's doing searches for you for similar emails, clicks, you do detonation if it's needed, because the submission didn't do it. It's also forming similarity clusters, we call. These are just, in fact, you can think of it as like a searches in Explorer on something based on various characteristics. You would do that because you want to see what's the impact. But because there's automation, you don't need to do it necessarily. You can just come and review what it found based on that one reported email. And do I need to do anything else? So there is here a pending action. So we can have a look on this, for example. As an analyst, I would be interested to this. What is this? And what you can see, one of the automation created this cluster based on a URL, which was in the message. Remember the campaign. It was totally different. Sender, subject, emails were different, but the URL was the same. Even behind QR or in the mailbox, it doesn't matter. URL was the same. So the system grouped it for you together. And you can see that, like, okay, this has multiple verdicts, email messages with this URL. Enough of them has malicious verdicts to say, okay, all of this we think is malicious. But you see that not all of them is actually get pulled out from the mailbox by the automation. So there can be various reasons for this. It can be override. It can be some other reasons not, but you as a SOC analyst can enforce still. You can come here and clean up, okay? So if you want to get rid of this 27 emails, it can be that simple. You just approve the pending action on this cluster, and the system will go and do the cleanup for you. In this case, through incident, it will just self-delete. But in this case, what I would like to show you, like, okay, maybe you're not sure. Maybe you want to see some kind of metrics and trends amongst these messages. You can actually go behind and dig a bit deeper to, okay, what is this messages with this URL? You just pivot to Explorer, simply, you just click on it. It will take that search criteria the automation did and do it for you the same way like you did. And then you can get a bit more information like, okay, what are these messages like in a group, and what is their characteristic where the URL is the same in them. And you see them like, yeah, the subject is varies, recipients more or less the same, sender is totally different. There's all sorts of themes here. Some of them get quarantined by zero router purge. Some of them is still in the inbox. You can continue the hunting done by the automation if you want. For example, let's say in this case, what I wanted to do is like, okay, because we want to get rid of the emails with this URL, I want to just do that here from Explorer, not from the incident page, because I wanted to do some check. You can customize to see more metadata if it's needed to get your final conviction. Now,
yeah, it's probably
point,
worthwhile talking here about, and you spoke about Zap, because that's one of our automation components, right? So those messages that you see there that say Zap, they were removed based on one user reporting the message. So one user reported the message, and automatically we've already had some other messages get removed out of mailboxes because we knew that that URL was bad, right? And that's that 0 hour auto purge that Daniel was talking about. So keep going,
Exactly.
Dan.
Yeah, exactly. This is one of the automation steps that's happening to take action on emails. No, it's also worth mentioning, just because your user reported Phish, it not just helps you as an organization. Actually, signals are shared. So no, because that user reported Phish detonation get a bad signal on that URL, the zero auto purge happens everywhere in the service. Okay, so other customers will benefit from this too. So that's how the system automation works to do remediation, not just for you based on your user reported signal, but for others too.
And Teams too, Dan.
Yeah, that's true. And the signal shared
Yeah.
with Teams, Teams messages now get pulled since we also start building integration more and more deeply with Teams as a platform. That's true as well. Okay, so let's move on. So what we will do, I will just try to get rid of all the inbox messages. The fastest way to do that is I will add the filter criteria here called latest delivery location, and I will say, okay, everything with this URL still in inbox. I want to even delete the items folder if a user deleted it. I want to just focus on those and just get rid of them. And in previous sessions, we show you like this is done. Simply from Explorer, you multi-select and say, okay, I want to stop deleting these messages. But at this point, you can also have other actions you can do as a responder. You can let Microsoft know, even looks like the URL is malicious, but maybe they don't have a signal from every email messages. So if you start reporting this example of messages, what you are remediating using something we call admin submission, you're sharing the signal, more signal other than the URL, more characteristic with our research and response teams and automation. So it's worse to do admin submissions, even automation kicks in, because more examples we can do adjust the filters to thwart more wider part of these campaigns. Okay, so we can do admin submission, or from entity pages you can start taking actions in your matter like block IOCs. You can block the URL domain completely, okay, or the root domain, or file hashes, or senders. If you think this is still a need because some part of the company is not handled because they also morphing the URL. There can be instances then the URL is not static. It's also changed. But in this case, we just soft delete. It's a simple wizard. You need to go like, I don't know, taking Phish action, 12 clicks, the messages, like all messages will be taken care of by automation. The beauty of this actions also not going unnoticed. It's still all feedback to Defender. This action I'm doing manually, it will create additional alerts and context and action center entries which will correlate to incident. So if somebody else looking at the incident I'm working on, they will see what I'm doing. So I was taking additional remediation actions. All right, so that's kind of like how you respond either from Defender portal or going back to MDO tools depending on your needs. But there is a couple of more things you would do as part of your work. Let's say, okay, we agree with our users, it was a Phish. We see the automation clean up some things for me. I clean up what else needed. I blocked IOCs, I blocked senders, I let Microsoft know the samples. What else you would like to do in this flow before you just wrap it up and move on? One thing you can do, going back to that attack story, I want to let my user know you were right. Your signal was important and we take action on it. And we appreciate that. This is kind of feedback loop to the end users. SOC teams can do, which is like a positive reinforcement, like, thank you, you helped us to contain and respond to an incident. It's also in the portal, it's on the submission page, so you can go from the text storage, select alert. There's here an action to view the submission by the user itself. I will just tab this out. And on that page, you can just send back an automatic response email, marking the individual user reported message as Phish. It's kind of like you're telling the system like, to the user like, okay, I agree with you. Clicking on this, there's email templates you can customize, will send back to the user saying like, well done, okay? Or you customize whatever message you want. All right, so that I usually recommend SOC teams to do because this is important for feedback signal for the users. And in the future, we have worked to involve more automation on these flows. So not everything what I showed you need to take manual action on in the future. There's plans to improve these. Okay, so this is how we responded on a phishing incident. What you would do, as you would do a SOC analysis, like, okay, I'm done. I think I did everything which needs to be. I checked the status, so nobody else will jump on this. I think this was true positive. I will categorize, accordingly. So, metrics it will show up and saying like actions needed, done, feedback. You just close the incident with that. And then you can go back to your queue as a SOC analyst, to the incident queue, and start looking for the next one, which is coming top of the queue. Because you will see that like the action can do start firing incidents, they will merge as investigation progressing, so you can respond to the next one. Okay, I think that's our demo cam. Can you share back your screen? I think we have still a little bit of content to talk through.
Yep.
If you have questions, feel free to pop it in the chat. We have Daria helping us to reply. Okay, so I just.
Yep, sorry, Dan, you go. No, you go.
So we just prepared a short slide for you guys to how to, just like a high-level approach. Okay, this is just one of the security flaws, very powerful flaws you can do in Defender XDR. And the majority of this works because we just zoomed in on a very specific email-related attack. But you can think of this if the attack progresses because your users interacting with the URL. Okay, and they do the download payload, then other signals will come. This is the beauty of cross-correlation. If something happened on the endpoint, their identity get compromised, the token gets stolen, there is sensors all over the system in Defender, and they will generate alerts and automation, but all will come together to a single incident. Right? Because they are related. The entities impacted here are related. Okay, so that's why we started from incident and not alert or individual user reported, which to see the tree or the forest from the tree. So what we did, we triaged through incidents, we investigated, review and evidences and confirmed this is indeed a Phish. Then we look for additional actions to be taken as an analyst in the tool, in the portal. We took those actions, then we responded back to the users. It's optional, so it's a choice for SOC teams to do it. And then we close the incidents and move to the next one. Okay, this is what our more mature customer SOC teams are doing, and it's impacting very positively their flows because it's saving them a lot of time. They don't need to write custom correlation in their SIMs, or they can just lean on built-in correlation by the system. Oh, and I think one thing we mentioned, I forgot to mention, when Zero Auto Purge works, everywhere we have the URL, we'll go and clean up. Doesn't matter, it's the URL body, attachment, QR code, things like that. When the system has the URL and the URL exchange, automation clicks in and clean up automatically.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dan. I really think it's so powerful, especially because we're finding that in different messages with different subjects, completely different bodies sent at different times, right? We're finding those messages. Because coming back to that thing before about Phish being a numbers game, right? You're going to get scattered with heaps of Phish, and maybe attacker will send 10,000 through and five get through based on a high catch rate, right? But there might be different messages at different time because it's effectively, like I said, that numbers game. So having that automation that identifies those other instances is really, really powerful. So let's go on a little bit. A side note that I've got here. Especially for those that say, wow, this is really, really cool, but I don't have a button deployed today, or my users aren't trained to use a button today. I have worked with organizations in the past where they're still getting their end users to forward the message in Outlook, going, oh, yeah, this is suspicious. If you detect a suspicious message, click the forward button and send it to the SOC manually. But the problem with that is, right, is that message is going to come in some a format that's not easily parsable, that doesn't have automation on it, all that kind of stuff. But you can leverage the button that is inside Microsoft in built that doesn't require any configuration. And we actually have a really, really cool tool for you in attack simulation training, which is called a how-to guide. And that's an activity that you can send your end users. You can say across the whole organization, I want to train my users to click this button so I can create effectively an activity which gets them to report a message inside the platform. And you can actually see signals back on who is successfully doing that inside that campaign. So really, really powerful for teaching users on how to report message, so you can leverage some of that automation functionality that Dan went through. So I'm going to go through a little bit of key takeaways here, and then we've got a couple of minutes for questions if there are any questions, or I'll give you back some time. So first off, the MDO supports, this is a key message that I wanted to hammer on here, is the MDO supports third-party reporting options. Regardless of your platform choice, you can leverage some of those automation benefits that Daniel showed you. So if you are using a third-party phishing provider and for your awareness campaigns, and you've got their button deployed, which is kind of a common situation that I see quite regularly, you can still leverage that button from a security perspective by integrating it with Defender XDR. So everything that Dan showed you, you can leverage that functionality regardless if you're using a third-party button. I believe Daria has shot through some documentation on the chat for you if you want additional information on how to do that. I use that term, and Dan picks on me a little bit about this, the forest from the trees. Defender XDR allows you to see the forest from the trees. And what I mean by that is see the full picture, right? You may have lots of phishing messages was inside the environment, got to do with the same campaign. Bringing that all together into one package for you to respond to rather than individual components, but also being able to see, hey, is this not just Phish, right? Is there something else going on that's related to this? Maybe we have someone that has clicked on the email. What's really starts to be really cool is if you're leveraging multiple Defender workloads, because you might start to see MDE events showing you devices that you have clicks on based on a user that has reported a phish. So that's when it starts to become really, really powerful in terms of bringing that package together. And the automatic investigation, the incident correlation, the responses that Daniel will show you, they're just built natively into the product, so you don't require any additional configuration. There is a little bit of, from a Phish perspective, a little bit of operational components you do need to do in terms of teaching all users how to use the button. But in terms of the actual product and the automation stuff, we provide that to you as part of the Defender product. And again, I mentioned automation. Automation, it's part of the product. It's part of Defender. It's what we provide you in the Defender for Office product.
Yeah, Cam,
Daniel, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I think one thing I want to also just highlight, because we know not every security operational teams come to the portal to these things. So we actively develop into the direction to support customers where they are. So a lot of the things I showed you here, or most of the things I showed you here, you can get the data through APIs we have in Defender. You can get the incidents, you can get the hunting tables, you can actually soon be able to take actions through APIs. So the concept is here, like, okay, if you not necessarily start your flow, your response and triage flow from the portal, you can take out incidents. You can still benefit from the correlation and automation to your platform of choice where you triage, and build on top of that, and cross-correlate with other sources of information. I think the previous session was explained how SIEM or solutions can help you with that, including the Microsoft one, but third-party ones as well. So maybe that's also a good takeaway to, just because you don't want to use a portal, don't think about you don't have value here to capitalize on. You can do the learning, do the look. There is guides out there, and integrate and get the information. You have much more visibility what's going on in a kill chain if you integrate all the signals to your workflows. Yeah,
100%. And we obviously we've got Sentinel, and Sentinel has the native incident integration, as we were talking about. We've got APIs, and there are vendors that have built integrations with those APIs already. So if you're a Splunk customer, for instance, there is a official Splunk plugin for pulling the incident data into Splunk, and other vendors as well have that integration as well. So like you said, Dan, meet the customer with where they're at. We want you using this, the value that you can achieve here. We want you using that regardless of the platform that you've chosen as your single pane of glass. So there are those APIs that you can leverage, like just like you said.
Yeah, we have just 5 minutes more.
Yeah, we're done. So we'll open up. Obviously, we'll say thank you to some sponsors here, but we'll open up to any questions that you have on the chat. Otherwise, we'll give you back 5 minutes of time.
Okay. Yeah, please unmute yourself and kindly ask any questions if you have.
Looking on the chat as well. If you don't want to speak up, feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll
I
read
think
it
we
out.
we did a fantastic job. There is no question left. Well done.
That's
But
what I
if
like
you
to
have
hear.
questions, if you have questions left,
Yeah,
of course,
even
this was a job.
you can reach out to the speakers through their LinkedIn profile.
Exactly.
They are happy
Feel
to help
free.
you for any questions in future questions. Yeah.
Exactly. If you have
Thank you.
questions, reach out to us on LinkedIn or
Yeah.
pop it in the chat as we go along. We'll monitor it with Cam and reply. Thanks for your time.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
Daniel. Thank you,
Cheers.
Cam. Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.